and up to 5,200 for a doctor shift. Things which seem to have been so blatant that nobody wants to talk about them. Hospitals are too reliant on agency and foreign staff. The head of the NHS, somebody called Pritchard, Amanda Pritchard, called for a big increase in the training of homegrown doctors and nurses. Ooh. This has been muted time after time after time after time. The BMA, British Medical Association, and people like that have not increased the numbers to the extent that's needed. That more medical school places were needed. It's not excellent British candidates being turned away. She wanted to stop spending £3,000 million on agency staff. And this should be the exception rather than the rule. Pritchard accepted that patients were dying because of record delays in urgent and emergency care. Oh, there's a commission going to be set up. Oh, how long will that take? Oh, a couple of years. And then implemented. If you took the action today to start in autumn to train people to be doctors, you go to medical school for 6 years and you've got 2 years junior doctoring in the Aussie, so that's 8 years. So year one and that would be 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So before you got the splurge of people coming out trained as doctors, it will be the early 2030s. So basically what you're saying is from now till then, 6 to 8 years away, you're going to be undermanned. Unless you bring in a load of doctors from overseas. Commission is set up to consider the future of health and social care. Just in England, though. Other places, they've got their own places, they can decide something different. This is the absolute nonsensical way that the country's run. NHS Scotland, NHS Wales, NHS Northern Ireland. It's the evolution. Oh, it's really, really good. People don't give a shit about things like that. People want the health care for their families, their relatives, their parents, their kids. Doesn't care if the ambulance has got NHS Scotland on the side. They just care if there's an ambulance. Anyway, the commission is set up to consider the future of health and social care in England. It'll run for a year. So we'll ponce around, get the information for a year. A lot of lunches, a lot of X's. Oh, we'll have to make. Do we need to go to Bermuda and take a look at the way that their system works? How about Australia? Yeah, and then California. Can we do some fact-finding missions? Meanwhile, more lunches, more X's, a few tipples here and there. You could do this in 3 days. You don't need to be propping around for a year. You could get the ball rolling straight away. They will hold fortnightly evidence sessions. Nothing too strenuous, once every fortnight. From witnesses including senior doctors, nurses, midwives, business leaders, and politicians, and also Tory donors. Now the Tory donors one's missed off, but they will be in the background. Is there any way we can make any coin of this? NHS England has more than 130,000 vacancies. It's up a third from a year ago. Health trusts paid up to £2,500 last year for a single agency nurse shift, and up to £5,200 for a doctor shift. Approximately half of all new doctors, nurses and midwives registered in the UK received their training overseas. About half of new doctors, nurses and midwives registered in the UK received their training overseas. If that doesn't tell you the abject and total failure of the system in the UK, then nothing else will. Half of new doctors, nurses and midwives registered in the UK received their training overseas. Which means you're not training enough of your indigenous citizens to maintain and carry out operations, day-to-day operational things, not just operations where they cut you open and all that. There is 7,500 medical school places on offer in the UK. So basically, if there's 7,500 and half of new doctors coming in are from overseas, so that must mean 7,500 doctors a year are coming in from overseas. 7.5 medical school, but half of them new doctors are from overseas. So what they're saying is that number shouldn't be 7,500. It should be more like 15 or 16,000 to maybe more, 17 or 18,000 to allow for leakage, i.e. people that decide after a number of years that doctoring isn't for them, so they'll drop out, or they decide that doctoring is for them but not in the NHS and they go to private, or they move abroad, i.e. yeah, I fancy being a doctor in Bermuda, but I don't fancy being a doctor in the NHS. So you've got to have an oversupply. So realistically, I'm just saying 18,000. That's what you need to be training. 18,000. Okay. Where and how are you going to double the capacity? Is it a short-term thing? Don't know. You would be able to run these numbers quite quickly to find out demographics of the country, percentage chance of ages needing to be in hospital, average duration of stay, what the treatment's for, blah, blah, blah. You can build up the number of doctor hours that you need quite quickly on a broad brush basis, how many nurses, blah, blah, blah. The other thing is the future supply of doctors from abroad going to continue? Where are you getting the bulk of them from? Nigeria, Indonesia, Philippines, Spain? Where are they coming from? A few years ago, a lot of nurses came from Spain because they couldn't get jobs in Spain. Has that changed? Or Spain still producing lots of nurses? You don't need a year to work this out. You put some people in a room for a couple of weeks and they can come up with a basic structure. I'm not saying it can't be refined and tinkered with to get there. But if you're needing this number of people, then it's blatantly obvious you need to increase the training. Or do you say, no, we need a subgroup of people, like a trained up nurse? Do we really need that many doctors? Is a lot of the work that the doctor's doing, could a senior type nurse manage to do? Would that be a solution? You know, doctors are expensive to train, highly specialized. A lot of the stuff they see, especially in GP practices, I would imagine. I don't know enough about it. I'm just slinging spaghetti at the wall here. Is there anything that we can do to get people who are nurses trained up above like what you would normally class as a nurse, but below a doctor? Would that help? Just saying. Don't know. Only 16% of applicants to medicine or dentistry were offered a place. So there's a phenomenal number of people that want to do it. Richard said the NHS will want to be very ambitious, increasing the number of homegrown recruits. What are you doing about it? There's no lack of demand. We're seeing universities having to turn away excellent people, not just for medical days, but nurse and therapy across the board. Obviously, you're also looking at the ability of universities to ramp up the training places and of the NHS to make sure we've got the right clinical places. But over the next few years, we want to be in a position where we're increasingly able to be self-reliant and having a workforce that we meet demands. Okay, what are you doing about it? This is just like, I want to be happy. We want these people, right? Okay, you've just said that that's what needs to happen. Why doesn't the NHS build its own university to teach? We're going to have a new university. We're going to have 3 or 4 of them in the country. It's going to be owned by the NHS. This is the course. We're going to recruit people from the universities or wherever to teach. The university is just going to teach medicine, nursing, dentistry. That's it. When you start at 18, you're employed by the NHS on day 1. Bang. We'll give you a bursary, i.e. we'll give you some money. We'll pay for your course. And you sign up for a contract. The contract says that on completion of your course, you work for whatever it is, 10 years in the NHS. If you don't, then you owe us for the 6 years of training at 25 grand a year. You owe us 150, 200,000 pounds. You sign up for that. Down, there you go. NHS owns the university teaching place, pays you from day 1. When you come out as a junior doctor, you're employed by the NHS. It's solvable. It's just, if people do not want to do anything about it, then we're just going to go down this route of the universities will need to do this. Just it's solvable. There's funds for the universities. Yeah. Maybe come with, you know, maybe it's 5 or 6 places in the country. I don't know. You know, Bristol, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, or Newcastle, Glasgow. Build these places. Owned by the NHS. Everybody inside works for the NHS. The lecturers employed by the NHS. You can then start organising it so that the output of your doctors goes directly into your NHS places that you need. If there's places in the country that can't get doctors, then, you know, you say, well, okay, if you go work in XYZ place, then your loan's paid off in 8 years, not 10. Or an enhanced amount of money to go work there. I'm not too sure what you're going to gain by. You've told us what the problem is. Okay, what's the solutions? You know, you can round table this with a bunch of people, you know, over a week and come up with something. Oh, but it might be the right thing. Man, no, well, you've chose what the problem is. You haven't got enough people, so you need to increase your capacity. What's the best way to increase your capacity? Can we double up on some of the courses? Can we do distance learning for people? Can we offer like a different structure to becoming a doctor? You know, this 4 year or 2 years distancing. Can we mix and match these things to churn out more medical professionals? Is this the only way to solve the problem? Just more doctors? Doctors are expensive, and rightly so, because they put a huge amount of training in. You've got to have a high degree of ability, knowledge to become a doctor. You've got to remember all these things in Latin and blah, 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 metatarsals, fibula, and all the rest of the care. You know, what's the diseases? What's this? What's that? Is there any way that we can improve that with computerized systems for diagnosis? And you know, can we get so that we're getting more productivity, efficiency out of the doctors? Could we have a ratio of like doctors, maybe it's not as highly qualified people, like a ratio 1-to-1 or whatever? Yeah. People say, it's nonsense. It's all been tried before. It doesn't work. It's like having teacher assistants and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a different world now. Computers. You can walk around with your iPhone. Oh, it's a waste of time that. They're iPhones. People will just be playing games. Yeah. You know, there's information to hand on stuff. You know, a lot of places, triage places, is people are coming in, trying to grade them. Life-threatening injuries, that can wait. You can wait an hour. This person needs to be seen far more, not just first in, first served and stuff like that. These numbers are just, you haven't got time to hang around. But they will. You'll see the same thing in a year's time. We've had this, we've had quite a few nice lunches out of it. And we've come with this nice bound thing, and then that'll lie in somebody's in tray for another year. If you want to solve the problem, then it needs to be elevated to priority level. Like I said, over a dozen or 10 training places in the UK. Like what they used to do for the nurses. in Newcastle. Used to be a nurse's like halls of residence opposite the General, which was the old hospital in Newcastle. Build them like a stew plot. Each have their own little room. You know, make it easy for people. You come be a doctor. We'll pay you. We'll pay you 10 grand a year straight away. That's to learn. That's to learn. The course doesn't cost you anything. You don't need to take a loan out. You need to commit 10 years from when you graduate. You signed up for the NHS. If you don't, you have to pay this loan back. Signed in blood. Something like that. I don't know. Why you make it so difficult? We've got to keep the standards high. I agree. Fine, okay, keep the standards high. If it's run by the NHS can dictate the standards. I'm not suggesting they should lower them. But why are we reliant on medical schools? Medical places? Why can't the NHS own this? You know you're going to need doctors every year. You know you're going to need nurses every year. Why don't you train them yourself? My view is pay them. Pay them from day one. You're an apprentice. I don't know. Maybe it's 1 day a week you've got to, you're working on the wards or something like, oh, well, that's not the best way to train. People should just be learning, and they don't need to go in. I never know. It doesn't look like we're making the best use of the people in the country. It just sounds like, people are happy to just keep it constrained, and that will elevate doctors' salaries. If you can get yourself on one of these, an agency one, £5,200 for a shift. It's kind of money, that. To work 5 shifts a week, 25 grand a week, 100 grand a month, $1 million and a bit a year. Not bad if you could get them number of shifts. You're nearly getting paid as much as a mediocre footballer player. Football clubs do that. When you're a young lad, they sign you up, they pay you money. Any different. Labour, NHS to often run for doctors, not patients. Yes, you see. It's the doctor's problem. That's why we're in this problem. The RAF faces urgent fighter pilot shortage. Staffing in crisis. Internal documents seen by iShore. Air Force admits it needs to act fast. I don't know why we need them, right? What for? Who we're going to fight with? Tell us who we're at war with. Who we're going to be at war with. What, the Ruskies? Medics must accept change to transform the NHS. More words, words, words and words, including working more flexible hours. I think they do work shifts at the moment. This is coming from Labour. Streeting in an interview. The health service reforms will take a decade. Sometimes the status quo is driven by provider interests and not by patient interests. Change is required. blah, 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 blah. It's your problem. It's their problem. It's somebody else. Nah, it's because we can't get people to work shifts. I haven't got enough people to fill the jobs. There's 130,000 vacancies. And we've got this person now saying it's the shifts. Yeah. And he promises to end the 8 AM scramble for GP appointments and boost performances. Yeah, okay. Tell us how. I'm just saying, Tower, how are you going to do that? We've got these, what looks like nurses. And they're wearing these little watches because they don't have anything on their wrists. Obvious reasons, hygiene. But the ladies have got pink sort of things. And the bloke's got a blue one. This guy's not too sure what colour his is black. You would think that they would come with like a little rubber. I guess that's all they are, they're little rubber clips. When you buy them, you would think you get a red and like a pinky and a bluey and a black. I just don't know. Do you think they would have one that was pink and blue, like all mixed up? Sort of share. Okay.